This is Chris Hansen.
Chad doing Rip City Radio here.
This is Jamie Hudson.
This is TJ Hushmanzada.
And I'm going to let y'all know something.
You're listening to
It Just Makes Sense.
It Just Makes Sense.
We are sports. We are nostalgia. We are pop culture. And we're funny sometimes.
I think overall we're just a good time.
They thought we couldn't do it. But guess what?
We're back.
Podcasts are free, and we can do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
We never knew what we were doing in the first place.
Yeah, that is a good point.
So Florida State can just now be like, you know what? Like, you screwed us. Let's take our ball and go home.
No,
because that's exactly
fucking
what
dummy.
they're doing.
These are some of the best playoff games we've had since the playoff has existed. They have all the motivation in the world. Nobody expects them to do anything. Nobody expected them to get to this point with Joe Flacco, with more injuries than any other team in the NFL.
I would be terrified of them, and I would be scared of him. And who are
Speaking
we
of
to
losing,
call people out on losing bets, okay? We suck at betting.
And remember, don't be afraid to fade yourself.
hello, Braxton.
Hello.
Braxton is perturbed, it feels. I feel like
Yeah. No one's
Braxton-
forcing you to do this anymore.
Braxton.
if you wanna bail,
I don't
Why would you take it there?
yeah, I know. I just
here's Braxton from the moment we get here, and then he hears a clap. He goes, "I guess I gotta be part of this." That's like the entire time.
Braxton's night. This is the way that I will do a play-by-play of Braxton's night. Braxton got accidentally backdoored into taking a shot of rum that was mine, but I poured some of it out into his drink. Braxton then got a burrito that had no sauce. Braxton then
It just had meat and potatoes. What kind of a burrito is that?
California burrito with just
Meat
and
fries.
potatoes. Yeah.
And, well, not like crispy fries either. That was lame.
Yeah. How's that microphone doing? Microphone's not working.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Had to we got we got this karaoke machine looking thing, which has a voice alternator on it. So listening to Miguel singing a chipmunk version of Part of Your World.
Listen, if that's the worst part of your night, I feel terrible for you.
No. I think the first song wasn't bad. It was the third or fourth where I had to exit.
I haven't even gotten started.
Yeah.
Should we bring
that's
that?
what I realized.
Should we bring that to the live show?
Probably not.
Live show, January 10th, 6 p.m., Jimmy's Sports Bar and Grill. 1-ish week away, boys.
There's Blazer tickets in it for you, free.
There's plenty of things in it for you. We're finalizing our beverage sponsor as well for the evening, but there's going to be drink specials. There's going to be, I was going to say live entertainment. We are the live entertainment.
Correct.
Who would have thunk it? I like your Portland hat. Is that a new Portland hat?
It is.
It works very well with your green hoodie.
Yeah.
I love it.
Matchy.
Matchy matchy.
Yeah, if you don't come, we're not friends. That's all I got to say.
All right, yeah.
If you don't come to the live show,
Do
delete
you
my
even-
number.
Do you even love him?
Delete
Do
my
you even
number.
love him?
We'll get the regs there.
Will we?
Would hope so.
I hope so too.
I'll tell you what. In this new year, at this point, we're back to work now, and I was freaking dragging today. We spent the last 4 or 5 days just hosting people spending the night, all this stuff. I was just so ready to not be. I was supposed to be back and being a productive member of society, and all I could think of was I want to crawl under my desk and fall asleep.
Here's your New Year's resolution: say no more.
Say
no more often.
Yeah,
That's a good one for you, Pete.
that's probably right.
Yeah,
I overextend myself.
you tend to do that. That's why I think it's a good resolution.
Yeah.
Just say no more. No more.
No
No more to people.
no more, no more.
Both.
All right.
Do the second one.
Sure. We've probably had the New Year's resolution talk before, but like I said, not going the extra mile, not going above and beyond.
Nothing wrong
Chances
with
are I'll
that.
probably do all of that. And Braxton's free balling it tonight on the microphone. Move that thing out of the way.
For the 20th time, my New Year's resolution is to get abs. 25th time.
Yeah.
300th time.
Little do you know that it's just ABS, which is just all
The new brakes.
the new brakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not abs. It's just new brakes.
New calipers.
Yeah, you got those. There was an interesting hypothetical, a couple of things, not necessarily on like the resolution side of things, but I did see a video about what do you wish you could bring back in 2024 that previously existed. This comes by way of the tiki-takis. It's not what's going to come back, but things that you're hoping might come back in 2024. Let's listen to the video, and I want to get your thoughts on the other side.
Starting off strong with the kudos bar, they were taking from us way too quick. Granola bars are still there, but nothing is quite compared to a kudos bar.
I don't know what that is.
You know what a
Ringtones.
kudos
Like,
bar
why
is?
were we so quick to drop the whole, like, putting your favorite song as your ringtone trend? You can tell a lot about someone by the song they picked to answer their phone to. Okay, hot take. I loved Pepsi Twist.
Love a good Pepsi
I
Twist.
still cannot order a Pepsi without asking for a side of lemon or lime to squeeze into it.
I agree with
Obviously.
MySpace.
Burning CDs. Come on. Yeah, I can build you a playlist, but this is so much more work, so much more personal. The true sign of friendship. Desktop games, right? A complete rush of running into your family's computer room, turning on your gateway, and building an amusement park where you cause people to throw up and then have janitors clean it up. Oh, well, they have apps for that now. Not the same.
Not the
Not
same.
enjoyable, but still an experience. Altoid Sours desperately need to make a comeback. Philadelphia snack bars. I mean, imagine being in your 2 p.m. slump and you need just a little treat, a little snack to
also
reward
don't
yourself.
know
And
what
it's one
this
of
is.
these.
I don't know this now. I knew
Turns
what
your
they
day
were
right
when I
around.
had 'em.
No, Book It is still around, but as an adult, I would be so much more compelled to read if there was a personal pan pizza waiting
Yes,
on the other side for me.
absolutely.
I mean,
Sprite remix.
I need a continuation of the salad finger story. I need to know everything that he's up to today, what he's doing with his life. Is he on TikTok? What's on his For You page? And finally, TRL. I discovered so much new music by waiting to see if my song was at the top of the charts and just having to sit and watch all these other music videos.
All right.
Pepsi Twist is a great mixer. I don't like it by itself, but like to mix alcohol with.
And
great.
it's not the same where you have like those gigantic choose your own adventure soda things like at Wendy's or Burger King.
Yeah.
That's not the same. Where you can have like endless options of diet soda with lime. Not a Pepsi Twist, obviously.
I never liked the lime or lemon mixed in with the cola, so I'm out on that.
Out on it. Okay.
Yeah.
But what are possible other things? I've had a little bit of time to think about this, so I will throw out a couple of things. The first one that I want to bring back, I want analog contests. And what I mean by that is I want to be able to open a can of soda or a little a bottle of soda, and I want to look at that, and I want to be told whether or not I just won a free soda. These days, when you do that, you have the code. I am never getting online.
Free 20-ounce Coke.
Yeah, I'm never getting online to, like, I could have won $1 million on one of those contests, and I'd have no idea. But
I like that.
I will redeem a 20-ounce soda, but I'm not going online to punch in a 20-digit code. That's stupid.
Well, even if they keep the codes, have it tell you the prize right then and there.
Sure.
And then say, go online and type in this code and
Right, that
redeem
gives
your
you,
prize.
like, maybe like the, maybe like a barcode or a
Yeah, or a
QR code that you
voucher of
could
some
download.
kind.
Yeah, for sure. This is the code to be able to redeem that. So, yeah, analog contests. Absolutely want those again.
Why are they called that? Why is it analog?
I don't know. No, it's just like I call it an analog contest.
As
like
opposed
analog
to
is
a
like
digital.
right? So something that is like tangible, physical type of a thing. I want like collectibles to really come back. You know, like people went
Pogs?
crazy. Yeah, Pogs, freaking Beanie Babies at McDonald's.
Garbage Pail Kids.
Yeah, like
What's the thing you slap on your wrist?
yeah, those little guys.
Yeah.
There were like the quarters. Everyone has the big book that had all of like the state quarters on it. Where are the collectibles these days?
I do feel like collectibles have kind of made a big return with like baseball cards and Pokemon and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's
There needs to be like rage behind it.
Huh?
There needs to be a lot of it needs to be like tons of fandom. You need to bring back the feeling of what it was like to do like Black Friday in the early 2000s. That type of level of competition.
you need people to die.
I want the
trampled at least.
mini ice cream cups to come back as a normal part of the grocery store.
For sure.
Not something you have to go to like Swans
With
to
the sticks?
get. Yeah.
With the little
with
sticks?
the wooden
Yeah,
spoon.
that's just part of the
I
flavoring.
want
I think
Gatorade bottles to come back. Like old school.
with like the nipple, the twist nipple.
No. I'm talking older than that. I'm talking the bottle, glass bottle Gatorade.
Glass bottle Gatorade.
That was like 80s.
No, that was around. I mean, when it started, probably. But that's the like when I was growing up. That was the Gatorade that I
It always
had.
feels like it's a
Yeah,
little
I-
bit colder.
Because you
That
get
was
the top and
pre-me
you always
then.
play with the top. Like you click it, the lid.
Like a Snapple.
Yeah, the
Love a
Snapple
good
cap.
Snapple.
Whatever happened to Sobe?
Sobe. That was as soon as I said love a good Snapple, Sobe was the next thing that came into my brain for
Sobe.
sure.
These are all like also really simple things. The main one I would want to come back will not. It's not likely, but I want to go back to flip phones
Yeah.
and just get rid of smartphones.
Feel like those could come
mean-
back though.
They kind of are.
Yeah.
But to like that shit to just be shut down, and we all just have smartphones, and it can go as far as taking videos and pictures.
But like will the pictures be good?
Sure,
Okay, because like you still need to be able to do that. I don't think that like people are going to want to sacrifice
fine.
that. So all of the functionality and all the technical advances, but flip
Yeah.
phone edition.
yeah. Force people to fucking have conversations. No more smartphones. I mean, you can go
Yeah.
around directions. Get a fucking GPS system.
Yeah.
Make those cheaper.
I want 1990s NBA to come back.
Do you?
I do. I want the aggressive. I mean, like we've talked
But
about
you don't
how
like
soft
what
the
Draymond
NBA
You
is.
couldn't
Green's
handle
doing.
Draymond Green. That's
no,
90s
but Draymond,
NBA.
no, but everyone is Draymond Green. Then Draymond Green is 1990s NBA, and no one else is.
You want all of them. to
I
start
want
doing that.
everyone. I want just like that vibe. You know, we've always talked about like these guys are too big of friends or whatever. Like you need a big old big man fight between Shaq and Chuck.
Bill
every once in a
Laimbeer.
while. Yeah.
Also-
not Ron Artest fighting. Like more like, Shaq and Chuck fighting.
Okay.
Just kind of
Also, like early 2000s football.
sure.
I mean, not good for the players, but fun to watch.
Yeah. And are you talking about just like the fact that they wouldn't flag anyone for anything too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, take the passing game from today and the hitting from the early 2000s. combine 'em.
Some of those were crazy.
I mean, people were getting laid the fuck out.
Yeah.
Bring bullying back.
Bowling?
Bullying.
Bullying.
Oh.
I don't think there's a lot of people who agree with you on this.
Some people today deserve to get bullied.
like me, maybe.
No.
Okay.
Like younger people. They need to know what it's like to get punched in the face.
The thing is I think bullying is very alive and well.
Yeah, I'm talking old school bullying that you could take a break from. Because the bullying today is worse. It's cyberbullying.
Cyberbullying.
And it
sure.
doesn't stop. It's 24/7. I'm talking
Yeah.
like,
Say it to my face bullying.
yeah, like I just feel like and it might be a boomer take, but there's so many people in today's generation that you can tell they've never been punched in the mouth, and they need to know what that feels like so they don't just act the way they do.
Well, what about? But then we see the same guy. We saw the guy get into it, or I don't know if you guys saw the video of the Texas fan who was getting into it with the Washington players afterwards, and it was like a grown ass adult man who's just like talking smack with the Washington players, like guy was a big old douchebag.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but like face-to-face bullying, like allow a person to come back. I mean, if they can or want or whatever. Sure.
Because you can make an argument bullying today gets more people to do the unthinkable, like commit suicide and all that stuff. But
Yeah, it's
a
pretty
lot
dark.
of people that got bullied in the past, they're not only fine, but they're like better people today. Not to the extreme, but it's like sometimes when you get punched in the mouth, you kind of know how to act right afterwards,
All right, yeah. That's one take.
or vice versa.
I was going like the Subway stamp route. I think that like Subway I think is going to be purchased by the Arby's group or whatever. People who own all of the Arby's and the
roast
Buffalo
beefs?
Wild Wings and all that. But it's like, I remember we were when we were dismantling Jesse's house earlier this past year, and I found one of those like singular Subway stamps that you could have like a good old punch card for. I love a good old fashioned punch card.
Yeah, I think Dutch Bros still does the punch
They
card.
do, yeah, and I love that.
Or bring back if Domino's or anyone doesn't deliver your food fast enough, it's free.
Right, but it's like Jimmy John's like, we'll deliver it in 5 minutes, and it's like, yeah, you have to live like a mile away from them or whatever. Very silly.
It is freaky fast.
As a lover of the radio, I want a good old-fashioned local morning zoo. Just with like the prank calls and with the stunts and with like
With
the
Scooter.
with just like with Nelson in the morning, all those guys, just all kinds of stuff. I love a good morning.
You don't think
zoo.
like the Brooke and Jeffrey or whatever is good enough?
It's Brooke and Jubal?
It's
Jubal.
Jeffrey now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
But like the
Alright.
Jubal days in Scooter when they would do pranks, it's changed a lot. But like, remember when they pranked Scooter on the blindfold? They brought him into the studio with a blindfold and he gets to kiss girls, and one of them was his mom. That was fucking horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I love a good.
Yeah.
There were some like Portland radio guys that got just like flat out fired for some of the stuff they were doing, like having guys like ride on hoods of the car or like ride their bike on a freeway or something. It was like
They
yeah,
wanted
you
to be
can't do
jackass.
stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not just talking about that reckless. I'm just talking like a good old fashioned like radio impersonator, a good prank call, that type of
Like
stuff.
Roy D. Mercer.
And I don't think I know Roy D. Mercer.
Great radio prank caller. Classic.
So, like I want the feeling of knowing, like thinking that War of the Roses was like real. Remember
Yeah,
the early
second date
days?
update.
Second date updates for sure.
Second
like,
date update. The oral expressions.
Yeah.
Like between 9 and midnight.
Do you guys remember Dr. Laura's Leshinger?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Laura. That's right.
Yeah.
Love Dr. Laura. Right up there with the. I mean, not like as controversial as like Delilah or whatever, but
Yeah.
everyone knows who Delilah is. I had a couple other things on here that I wrote down in my notes here. What did I say as I was kind of going through?
Think about how big those
Do you
radio
text
things were.
yourself?
I do. This is how I build my shows. I text myself everything that I want to put on there. It's
And
weird.
Is the left side's from your computer, the right side's from your phone?
I don't know, but one of it is like where I send it, and the other one. Oh yeah, like the whole thing about like Rick D's, Rick D's in the weekly top 30. So,
Oh, the McShaker.
Ooh.
Bring that shit
Yeah.
back.
they're bringing what is it? Snack wraps back.
Yeah,
I think next
I think we
year,
talked
so,
about that.
Yeah, for sure. So
Wrong episode.
at official IJMS, what would you like to bring back in 2024 that has been
Murders.
murder? Oh yeah, murdering.
Misogyny.
Yeah, murdering.
Make murdering legal.
The ability to get away with murder is, I feel like, pretty impossible these days. Not to say that I want to murder anyone. It just like felt like it's just like impossible now.
So here's a question. If we were to be living in the, like, let's say 40s, 50s,
Sure.
before DNA and all that kind of stuff, how many people do you think you would have killed?
You're saying like you could easily get away with it than you would today.
Yeah, you basically just have to move to the next state.
Like you have a Yellowstone train station where you could kill people and it won't be tracked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, again, you're talking about the DNA side. There's no tracking. There's no cell phones. There's no security cameras.
Well, let me rephrase it. Do you think you would have killed somebody?
Absolutely. I'm
I
counting
feel-
in my head.
I feel like, yeah, I feel like that knowing that you could probably get away with it for sure. Yeah. But like we were all like God fearing back then, so there was that part.
God ain't real.
We've said a lot of taboo phrases in the last. We've said bullying, murder, and we're Jesus deniers on this podcast.
Just in the last 30 seconds, I could think of 7.
He's got a MySpace top 8 of people he would murder.
How many of them are Jordan?
How many times over was it?
I haven't gotten to Jordan yet.
Right. And it has to be like someone that you couldn't absolutely hate, because you don't need like terrible. It's just like someone that you like dislike enough, right? Because you can't like have like that motive, right?
Yeah,
But
I guess you're right.
But if there's somebody that fall into the category of that you truly hate, there's a pretty good chance that other people feel that way about them.
yeah, it's like, I mean, how many people want to murder me type of a thing?
Yeah, but it wouldn't fall like your friends or any mutual friends that you have wouldn't really fall into that. It would be more like if you hated your boss, there's other people that feel that way, so it wouldn't be tracked back to you.
Sure. Yeah, and then at that point, it's just kind of like everyone would have the same,
Yeah.
have the same motive there. It's just like who would be dumb enough to do it. But yeah.
Honestly, I would have if you gave me 24 hours, I would have a spreadsheet of people I would kill. Anyone that's added to that is anyone who like takes a bite out of my food.
And Jordan has done that, so
Yeah.
there you go.
It comes back to the age-old question: is there more murderers or porn stars?
In the world,
Murderers.
Not including like OnlyFans.
murderers or porn stars in the world. Yeah.
I think
I think these days there's probably more porn stars, but what do you call an OnlyFans person a porn star?
I'm saying not them.
Yeah. So
then I would
maybe
go murderers because
Yeah.
I think OnlyFans it's a huge factor. It's
I
a
think-
huge game changer.
Yeah, I think that globally the ability to still get away with murder exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not here.
And if you
but-
think about it, wouldn't it be easier to get like if you are a psychopath and you think this way and you are a fucking killer, wouldn't it be easier to get away with murder today because you have watched countless movies and TV shows that have showed you different ways on how to do it / how to get rid of bodies, how to be quiet about that stuff. You've been given examples left and right.
Yeah, it's just these days it's so impossible to be off the grid. You know, it's like, you can track anyone on your phone GPS, on a car GPS, on all of these little Ring cameras and all that. That's what's going on with the dude in Idaho who killed all those college students. Like, he tried as best as he could, and he
But
still got
in the
got.
world that we're in today, besides being given different ways on how to do it a better way, we also live in the world where people want recognition, and they're so dumb that they out themselves sometimes because they want the recognition to be known as the person who did it.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going to bring this also up in our live show, but I wanted to throw this out to you guys ahead of time. And for anyone who is listening and who will be at our live show at Jimmy's Sports Bar and Grill, 6 p.m., January 10th, the question was posed. You have to survive 20 minutes with one of these animals for $100 million. Which of them are you picking? And the 4 are a brown bear, a tiger, a hippo, or an alligator. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts.
Are you in the water with the gator?
That I feel like is... Like, if you're thinking about, like, you're in this, like, square area, like, do you have to be in the water? Is that, like, a qualifier? I feel like my answer is I would probably go with the gator.
How long?
20 minutes. I would probably go with the gator because, like, unless you're bothering it, it doesn't necessarily want
I
anything
would go
to do
with
with
the
you.
gator out of these
Right.
4. Easy.
Yeah, I think gator is the easy choice here.
But if you have to be in the water and you have to be constantly in motion...
And you would not. The
But
thing
you
with the
wouldn't know
gator
where
will
it is?
disappear.
Yes.
So if you're in the water, then it wouldn't be gator. But if 20 minutes in an area where he could, I would just stay behind him.
Yeah. So I do feel like to up the ante here a little bit with both the hippo and the alligator because both seem like those would be ones. It's like if you just don't disturb
I would
them,
not fuck with a hippo. I'd go bear before I'd do hippo.
Would you? Yeah,
Hippos are really territorial and very deadly.
So if you had to move around, you had to be in a shallow-ish water, but you had to be constantly in motion for those 20 minutes. Would you still choose alligator?
Yeah, I think if I still have, like, I'm standing. If I'm standing, like, if it's up to my, calf or whatever, and, I can still kind of see it coming, and I can still, like, shuffle, like, I would take that chance.
You would, yeah.
I think gator is pretty easy answer out of these 4. It gets tough if you eliminate the gator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then if you, let's say we eliminate the 4th option here, where do you go?
I think that I would go bear.
I think I would go tiger.
You would go, tigers are fast. I guess they're all kind of fast.
Yeah, but you're not. See, I'm not assuming in any of these situations that I'm running. I'm fucked no matter who I pick.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about 20 minutes in a space, and my goal is to either...
And that space is conducive to the animal.
Yeah.
Like, it is the space of the animal.
I'm not planning on running from any of these because there's no way you would outrun them. So you're thinking of sitting in one spot, being as calm as possible. Hippo's last on my fucking list. I would be terrified of a bear. I would be terrified of all of them, but I think I'd go tiger.
Do you feel like you
I
could
think
probably...
tigers are too curious. That's the thing.
But, like, curious to the point where you could befriend it?
No.
You don't think that in 20 minutes you could befriend a tiger?
No.
Have you, like, I've seen videos where, like, people sit in one spot and the tiger might sniff around, but a tiger's not attacking you right away unless you are doing something like taking its food or fucking with its cub.
And we have to assume that each one of these animals is also hungry.
Yeah.
I'll shoot myself.
The reason I would choose the bear is because there's certain things that you can do to intimidate a bear.
Sure.
Right. you can get big and scream and yell, and a bear will back down. It won't necessarily take the chance. Whereas with the other two, that will only make it worse.
Yeah, the possibility
so,
of...
you can sit there and stay calm with a bear, but as soon as it gets close enough to you, you can get up and scream and get all crazy, and it will scare it to back off.
Yeah.
Whereas with the other two, your only choice is to stay there and be calm and just hope that it leaves you alone.
So the question here is you pick one, 20 minutes, and it's 100 million. What if we counter? What if I have a counter?
What would your counter
What are you
be?
offering the animal?
What is your...
Well,
your
the
banker
backer,
offer?
the backer, go back to the bank. I'm going to go 400 million.
Okay, all 4?
All 4 of them. Let them be distracted with each other and not pay attention to me.
Well, at that point, the other side of it is that they are all interested in you, regardless of. Their instincts are to ignore each other, and this is like Hunger Games
How about
style
this? You get
against you.
His counter to you is, okay, but we are covering you in like red meat. You're wearing a ground beef suit.
Then I would go, you
are
can't just bring up new shit when you're presenting a fucking scenario.
You are an edible Pop-Tart. Oh, we forgot to get the Pop-Tarts. Oh, well, next week. Next week, live show.
This is
We've got some
toughy.
stuff. Yeah.
I'd go gator. Don't eliminate the 4th.
I'm going to bring this up in our live show. I am curious, your guys. If you won't be at the live show, you want to hit us up at official IJMS. We do have, we don't necessarily have to talk about it within the context of sports or whatever. I did bring up the Pop-Tart Bowl. It was everything that I hoped and wish it would have been.
They had a mascot.
Which was great, right? Like, we saw the trophy, and then I was like, no, don't deprive us of a gigantic Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
And it was. And then he dropped into a toaster, and then he was eaten. It was incredible. And that's the only way that you get to watch bowl games now. It's the only way that people give a shit about a bowl game is if you're a gimmick.
Who played in a Pop-Tart Bowl?
I don't know. Kansas State, I think, won, right? I don't remember who Kansas State beat, though.
No, was it Pop-Tart Bowl, Tennessee, Iowa?
No.
Or was that Cheez-It Bowl?
That was
Cheez-It Bowl. Which, by the way...
Kansas State did win the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Pop-Tarts Bowl was Kansas State versus North Carolina State. So, power rankings. Let's see. Would you rather be covered by mayo or eggnog. Then I don't know if there's a good one there. I was trying to make it up on the fly. Didn't have a good one.
I'd rather be a Pop-Tart.
You'd rather be consumed, a Pop-Tart that is consumed by a bunch of people?
That's a good way to go.
Yeah.
What if that was the question, though? You're going to be covered with one, mayo or eggnog?
Eggnog.
Yeah, probably
I
eggnog.
feel like it's a little less viscous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But maybe a little bit stickier. They're probably both very sticky.
And I think that mayo would stink more quicker.
Sure.
More, quicker.
More.
I feel like people who choose eggnog are selfish people.
Okay.
Because you're just thinking of what it's doing to you, but you're not thinking of how many people can make sandwiches by just doing this. They all have white bread, and they can just do this to your arm.
I guess I just didn't realize that everybody around me had white bread and wanted a sandwich.
And ham and cheese. See? New information
That everyone
presented.
was ready to make a sandwich. Yeah, you are right. You are very right in that situation. But yeah, I am so glad that the Pop-Tart Bowl did amount to, and it was probably because they listened to the podcast and realized that they needed to have an emergency meeting.
Probably.
I doubt. I think that they had that planned all along. It was just I was very focused on the trophy itself. But that was kind of the thing. That was the thing I was thinking about a little bit, which was just like the amount of bowl games that you like either remembered were on, or like you tuned in because accidentally they're on and you just didn't realize it. But then it felt like this year, like these bowl games were just social media driven for after the fact. No one cared about the game itself.
Yeah, I watched 3 bowl games.
Yeah,
Oregon.
2 were yesterday. All of them were yesterday. Yeah.
Oregon and the 2 big ones.
Yeah, but you don't even consider playoff games as bowl games. They're playoff games.
Sure. Okay, so in that case, you watch one.
I watched one then.
Yeah, bowl games. That's why they have to do extra shit. That's why they have to do a life-size
I mean, they still
Pop-Tart.
called it the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl.
It is. They just
do.
mean less.
Yeah, and I mean, like next year, they will mean a little bit more, right? Like we'll get that competitive balance back, and the Sugar Bowl will be one of those games and everything like that.
I mean, they're having to shave a Cheez-It on your head. They're having to do all these extra things because no one's paying attention.
We will talk about how to fix the bowl games, in addition to the fact that there's going to be a 12-team playoff. There was a pretty viral moment. Before that, though, there was a pretty viral moment that happened before the Rose Bowl game, and it was in which they were doing their College Gameday ahead of time. And I don't know if you guys have seen this clip. Reese Davis is setting up a story in which Jalen Milroe, the Alabama quarterback, has his own apparel line, and it is called LANK, L-A-N-K. And it is an acronym for something, and Reese Davis will take it away, and then you'll hear Pat McAfee interject on the set.
Jalen Milroe often wears his own branded apparel reading LANK across the front. It's an acronym that stands for Let a Naysayer Know. Being told by his former offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien.
That is not what I thought.
Is that not what you thought?
Boy, let a naysayer know.
Let a naysayer know.
Of course.
The professional's right in the middle of his lead. That's all right. I just keep going.
You almost lost me. It got real tight up here as you were. I just want to let you know.
Reese, you were too smooth with that. I thought it was going down. I thought it was going down out here.
Oh, sorry about it. Let a naysayer know.
Let a naysayer know.
Naysayer know. That's what we thought the whole time.
He was very smooth with it.
When you heard that end start, you're like, please. Woo! Yeah.
I love how Desmond Howard and who's the other guy?
I think is that Joey Galloway?
Galloway.
Yeah.
I love how they both pull out like handkerchiefs.
Yeah.
Fucking
Woo!
wipe the sweat.
Here we go one more time.
Apparel reading LANK across the front. It's an acronym that stands for Let a Naysayer Know. Being told by his former offensive coordinator,
That
Bill
is
O'Brien.
not what I thought.
Is that not what you thought?
Boy, let a naysayer know.
Let a naysayer know.
Of course.
The professional's right in the middle of his lead.
That's all right. I just keep going.
You almost lost me.
It got real tight up here as you were. I just want to let you know.
It's pretty good.
Reese, you were too smooth with that. I thought it was going down.
Yeah. But I just, you gotta love a good.
I'm on
Pat
board with that
McAfee
apparel, by the way.
interjection.
You like shirts that say LANK?
Yeah, Mark Ingram was rocking one on the sideline. I thought it was pretty cool. Better than Young and Reckless.
Two comparable brands, for sure.
I wonder, we talk about the Pop-Tarts Bowl, they were talking about, estimated media value of everything that the bowl game generated for them, outweighing, how much they would have spent to be the sponsor of that. I wonder how much revenue came in for Milroe in, the last 24 hours since that clip. Similar to, just what... Coach Prime had done with his apparel and with the sunglasses and all that stuff too, just kind of leaning into
it's smart
that as well.
Yeah, I saw Mark Ingram was wearing it, as you had said, and they had a close up of him, and he was just holding up an L, which was memed to death, obviously, because Alabama had lost. So didn't necessarily work out in that sense for marketing wise, but I'm sure either way, he sold some shirts.
Yeah. When we look at the college football playoff, I thought that it obviously lived up to the billing. The question, and this was something that we had a very heated conversation at Jimmy's this past weekend. Our friend Jesse, who just had his second child, was like, hey, I'm ready to hang out. We all went and had a prime rib dinner there at Jimmy's. Great time. They took great care of us. And we talked about whether or not the top four was the correct answer. We saw yesterday on New Year's Day 2 incredible games. One that went into overtime that ended on a goal line, a comeback by Michigan. And then on the other one, we saw a very improbable comeback in a shootout in which a lot of things had to turn towards Texas to get to that point. So I pose the question again. Now that we saw what happened with Georgia and Florida State, we saw what happened in these playoff games. Did the committee get it right?
Opinions don't change. It's still the same. Here's the thing, especially if you're on the side of Florida State didn't deserve to be there. All you're doing after these playoff games is you're just looking for ways to justify your opinion. That's all. You're looking at the score. You're looking at the fact that they both went to the last play, and you're looking at that going, I was right. No, it doesn't fucking prove anything, because your point and everyone else's point and how Florida State didn't deserve to be there is still based on assumption. It's still based on the fact that they wouldn't have done that. You don't know that, and we never will.
But when you look at what happened in that game with Florida State and Georgia.
Again. No.
Hold on. They lost by 60. They lost by 60 points. So, to think that, and I said it last night, I said the committee got it right. I actually was just trolling. I don't think the committee, I think that, what we saw and how Georgia played in that game, Georgia absolutely would beat either of these teams in the championship game right now.
Again, that's another way to justify your opinion is based on that bowl game. It's
just a hindsight take?
The only thing you could knock Florida State for is they quit. They quit.
They did.
They cried and they whined, and
they played their B team, their C team, their D team.
I can't necessarily fault them for that, because we're not talking about in the past how a one-loss team got fucked and how this team got fucked. This has never, ever happened before in the history of college football, where you did what you were supposed to do all the way through. You let your play on the field speak for itself. You didn't lose a game. And you won your Power 5, and you got knocked. So, yeah, am I not a fan of quitting and whining and just saying, we're not going to try at all? I don't like that. But I can't blame them for that. You saw the list. There's not one fucking person that played on the undefeated team that played in that bowl game. Nobody wanted any part of that bowl game.
But we saw a team like Liberty that gets rewarded for the things that they were done, that they had done. Albeit it's like a group of 5. I know it's a group of 5. It's not a power 5, but still they were rewarded. They were put in that game, and they didn't belong there. Florida State did not belong in the playoff, and I think that the fact that like you throw Georgia in the mix in all of those 4 guys, Georgia would absolutely beat Alabama again. They would beat any of those 3 teams that were in the playoff.
Nope. You will never convince me.
Georgia
right.
won 29 straight games. They're back-to-back champions. They have one slip-up. It happens to be in a championship game right at the end of the year. They lose by 3, and then they roundhouse a team that should have been in the playoff that then chose to not even care about it because they go, you know what, this isn't important. Well, Georgia thought it was important to be in that game, and then they win by 60.
Everyone, people with that opinion
showed up.
and are all sitting here saying they got it right because of the score. Well, guess what? Since BCS days, since the fucking playoffs and everyone that made it, we have not gotten a lot of good games. So just because you got 2 good ones yesterday doesn't fucking prove your point. Most college playoff games have been a fucking blowout.
Yeah.
Have been a blowout. So to sit there and assume that Florida State wouldn't have fought and it would have been blown out by 40 is fucking crazy.
But in this game, like, would you have rather have seen like Florida State lose by 2 scores and been like, okay, I guess it wasn't a blowout, but they kind of like lost the way that everyone thought that they were going to?
I would have rather not have on what if. I feel like whether or not I think they deserve to be there, I'd rather get rid of the what if. What if Florida State could have done this? What if they could have done that? They deserve to be there, so I would have rather seen if they could have performed. Now, if they got blown out by 40, I'm like, oh, okay. Then maybe that changes the way they think down the road, even with the 12-team format. But they needed to be there. They deserve to be. They did everything they needed to do to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of said this before when we talked about when the rankings initially came out. I think that they definitely deserve to be there, but I think they also, the 4 best teams are in. Yes, they deserve to be there, and I know that those are kind of contradicting statements. Yes, they deserve to be there, but I don't think that they're one of the top 4 best teams. So I do think that obviously it's good. We had great football. We watched great teams play close games, and I think that, in that sense they got it right. But I still feel that it sucks to be Florida State. You're an undefeated team. You do all the right things. You deserve to do it. But realistically, they probably would have lost, and pretty handily. And I think judging them on this Georgia game, it's, you can't really take that seriously. As we saw, there was a list of many of their star players that weren't playing, and I think that they were kind of trying to prove a point in some way of like, we don't give a shit about this. We should have, we deserve to be in a playoff spot. So I don't really give that a lot of weight. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, that sucks for you, but what can we do? Nothing we can do about it. And I think these games prove that we got the right 4 teams in, very close games. I don't know. Here's the
tough. Shitty thing is a lot of people who have the take that you have, they're all hypocrites. They're all picking and choosing, because you're sitting here going, well, basically from the eye test, Florida State should not be there. Look at what happened to the Georgia-Florida State bowl game. But you're also sitting down here saying, no one gives a shit about bowl games. Like, bowl games don't fucking matter outside of the playoffs. So why are we putting so much weight into them losing by 100 to Georgia? They didn't give a fuck. Their players didn't give a fuck. Their coaching staff didn't give a shit. Another difference with especially in this situation, in college football, the best team doesn't always win. You take NHL, you take MLB, you take NBA. You get to kind of prove that season who the best is because you're going best of 7. At any given night, the team that might not be as good as Alabama can win. It could be TCU. It could be Boise State against Oklahoma. But in any given night, a team that's not as good as you can beat you. you're getting rid of that possibility by leaving a Florida State out who earned the right to be there.
And you don't think that in seeing and knowing everything about Georgia, I know that like wins don't carry over every year, that a team like Georgia did not belong in the playoffs?
I thought Georgia was one of the best 4 teams. I think if we were trying to solve the problem before it all happened, the committee had an insane opportunity to leave out, like not put Alabama in there. They didn't have to. I would have put Georgia and Florida State in there. I would have gone Michigan, Washington, Georgia, Florida State.
Yeah, I think there would have been a lot less questions if they did that, to be honest.
Because at that point, there's so many things that you follow. The reason Georgia wasn't in there because they had a lot of weight on conference champion, right? So they put that importance on the SEC, but they didn't do that for ACC. So what's really important to you here?
Yeah.
You leave Florida State out. They have not lost the fucking game, but you're saying we have to put Alabama in there because they won their conference championship.
Sure. And they beat a team that was back-to-back champions and won 29 straight. So, I don't want to beat this to death, but I want to talk a little bit more about Georgia, because what the committee did, or what shaped up to be, was a de facto playoff game. 2 teams that would have faced each other, 1 versus 4, had it happened a week earlier or something like that, right? And Kirby Smart, to his credit, had all of those guys bought in, right? Like, you're talking about a Georgia team. You're talking about so many guys, so many first-round picks that come out of that school, that he had the mindset with that team to say, let's finish the job. Let's have everyone after this game showing why we deserve to be in the playoff. Instead, Mike Norvell and Florida State and those guys said, we deserve to be there, but we don't have to prove that we needed to be in there at this point. We got screwed, but now we're just going to sit it out. The stakes were as high for both teams, and arguably more players in a Georgia team who are likely to go to the NFL because of how they're coached and because of the factory that it is. And so now they get to make the argument now that they deserve to be in the playoff because of what they did to a Florida State team that just said, you know what? And I know you said this last week, and you were absolutely right. You're in a lose-lose situation if you're Florida State. But still, what that told me, and I think that, like, how Kirby Smart was able to, again, coach up his guys is to say, this is one last chance for guys to see you, what it means to you and your mindset in the NFL, to make one more statement before you go off to the NFL. And the other guys at Florida State just got to bitch and say that they were supposed to be in, and then they sat everyone, and then now we'll never know, and all of this stuff. I think absolute credit to Kirby Smart in Georgia for doing that.
Yeah, I do agree with the fact that, this isn't a good look for Florida State, because I think that you could look at this and say, they knew they were probably going to lose, so let's make sure that there's, that we can have that excuse.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a coward's way out. I understand they got fucked over, but if I'm that coach, and I'm that team, there's a part of me that would want to say, well, let's prove everybody wrong. If we can go out and beat a Georgia team, then we can stand on that soapbox proudly and say, we told you so, you fucking dummies.
Which is what I think Georgia did. Georgia took that mindset that I think Florida State should have had.
Yeah, and I think that, maybe Florida State kind of had an inkling that they might not be able to keep up with a Georgia team.
Maybe.
And so they're like, hey, let's make sure
Let's leave no doubt that we're going to lose by 60.
Well, like I said,
I don't know.
You can absolutely fault Florida State for quitting. That part is not a good look. And just, yes, you can bitch and cry right after, but quitting on that bowl game, you can fault him for that. Even though I still give him a little bit of credit because I might fucking do the same.
Yeah, well,
I would be that angry.
Where's your heart? Where's your competitive spirit? I mean, like, a lot of, like, I don't think that I understand that there's the injury risk. I mean, that is just, you could get hurt while you're training. Like, all of those things. Like, anytime you get into a car, you are risking getting in an accident, right? Anytime you do an activity, there is a potential consequence to an action.
I also can't help but see every person dogging on Florida State as absolute fucking hypocrites. Because you would not be sitting here right now if this happened to your team. Let's give your team one loss. If this happened to your team, you would burn a fucking building down. If this happened to Oregon and they deserve to be there, you would be fucking livid. So let's not pretend like Florida State is just a bunch of whiny fucking crybabies because they didn't want to perform in that bowl game. There is a reason why you talk about Georgia the way you do. There's a reason why we talk about Alabama the way we do. They're going to be fine. They're a fucking factory of NFL players. So could you maybe think and have some compassion at the fact that Georgia, even though they were, in our opinion, one of the best 4 teams this year, they got dogged out of the playoffs. They'll be fine. We'll see them again. Isn't this a little bit harder to do for Florida State to have that chance and get that close? They can't reload the same way that an Alabama or a Georgia can.
Well, sure they can, because they just got DJU.
Sure,
like Florida State did. Like, they were going to be fine.
Scratching the portal stuff. There's a difference that the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world are given certain like benefits more than other teams, and why they want them to be on TV. They can reload 5 stars and attract transfer kids.
But let's not act like Florida State isn't like a huge program.
No, I'm not at all. I'm not talking about them like they're Tulane or Toledo. I'm just saying
they have just as much chance to be as good as Alabama or Georgia as any other team.
They are a really good. There used to be a powerhouse program. They're still a really good program. But let's not lie to ourselves. It's Georgia, Alabama, and then everybody else.
I am happy to see in a Fiesta Bowl game, in a game that Oregon did not want to be part of, where they had the aspirations to be in the playoff, where they then had their starting quarterback and all of their guys playing against an inferior team that like had no business being in that game. To have all of their guys in that game, I liked that.
Yeah.
I prefer that, because then it's like, where's your heart? Where's your competitive
spirit?
spirit?
You can say that for Georgia, yes. You cannot compare Oregon and Florida State.
Why not?
Oregon didn't get fucked out of the playoffs, Peter.
But you made the comparison earlier. If this was your team, and I think that's what he's saying, because I agree. If this was my team, if Oregon was in this position of Florida State, we got kept out even though we deserved to be there, I would be absolutely pissed, obviously. I think anybody would in that position. But if then my team goes and is like, well, fuck this, we're not going to play, we're not going to give
just
it our best.
Pouts and takes your ball and goes home?
I would be pissed.
Yes, that's not what he's saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Peter, what you're saying is you're proud of what Oregon did this year by playing the fucking Fiesta Bowl.
And the thing is that it meant nothing to Georgia to play in that game. So it meant nothing to Georgia to play in that game, and they played every one of their guys, and they look better for it. They look better for it than Florida State does.
You can say that about Georgia. You can't say that about Oregon this year. What he's saying is, if Oregon got fucked out of the playoffs and they played everyone, and
Oregon
Bo Nix
was
played,
in a game that they did not want to be in the Fiesta Bowl, and they
it
still
doesn't
played
fucking
all of
matter.
their guys out there.
They're not.
Why doesn't it matter?
Because they're not in the playoffs just because they didn't get fucked out of the playoffs.
That's right.
They weren't in the playoffs.
Yes, but they were in a Fiesta Bowl against a team that didn't belong there. That was a meaningless game.
If Oregon went undefeated and won the Pac-12 and didn't get in the championship, and they did that, yes, your point counts. But we don't know.
So Florida State can just now be like, you know what? Like, you screwed us. Let's take our ball and go home.
No,
because that's exactly
fucking
what
dummy.
they're doing.
I'm not comparing them to Florida State. I'm saying you can dog Florida State and give credit to Georgia for that. But the fact that you're bringing Oregon into this is fucking stupid.
No,
it's
not
the same
it's
situation.
It's taking a game that you don't want to be in and you rising to the occasion and saying, you know what? This is not how we wanted this to go.
Are you hearing my point?
I'm 100.
No,
Are you hearing my point?
You're not.
Yes, I am.
You're not. The difference is Florida State
got screwed.
got screwed big time. Oregon didn't.
So now they're just not competitors anymore? Now they just have nothing to prove?
It has nothing to do with being a fucking competitor. They get some sort of a get-out-of-jail-free card because they got royally fucking screwed. Oregon didn't. Yeah, give credit to fucking Bo Nix for playing his 14,000th bowl game. Great. They didn't get screwed out of the playoffs, Peter. They lost fair and square to not be in the playoffs. Florida State got screwed out of the playoffs like you've never seen before in the history of college football.
Correct.
So if those players said, fuck you, I get it. I don't like quitters, but I get it.
That's the only point he's making, is that they have more of a reason
to be upset.
And say, fuck you, we're going to take our ball and go home, because they got screwed so bad. Whereas Oregon, they played in the bowl game that I think was right. Maybe the opponent wasn't the best choice. It would have been a lot more fun to see them play a top 10 team. But I think that the Fiesta Bowl was a good fit for them and their record and their ranking. Whereas Florida State, again, like I think that he's saying, they got royally screwed. They have more reason to
be upset.
Take yourself out of this situation. Think logically. Don't think of yourself as a sports fan. Don't think of yourself as a media sports guy.
Sure.
You're given a list, and you say you accomplish all of this, and you're going to get to where you want to be. And then you do it. You accomplish the list, meaning you went undefeated. You beat everyone that was put in front of you. You played in the national championship game, and they tell you this holds a lot of weight. You need to make sure you win this. They win it, right? The checklist, all the boxes were done. And then they say, I know technically we're supposed to put you there, but we're just assuming things aren't going to go your way, so we won't. So they didn't put you there based on their assumption. Think of how fucking pissed you would be.
I would be absolutely pissed.
That's all.
My response to that is, do I prove those people right, or do I prove those people wrong? And Georgia had as much of a gripe to say that they were supposed to be, that they were one of the best 4 teams and that they should have been there. Florida State similarly, and they just had totally different mindsets. And to me, Georgia was like, we're going to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I think we all agree that Georgia did the right thing. Georgia did what we hoped Florida State would do, and they didn't. But I think the greatest comparison to make here is similar to what Miguel was saying, but let's make it you. You are at a job.
Yeah.
You are there, and they say, hey, Peter, this year, here's your goals. If you meet these goals by the end of the year, you're going to get, a big bonus, promotion, whatever. You do all those things. They get to the end of the year, and you accomplish those things. You barely accomplish, similar to them barely winning their conference championship. You just get over the numbers. You just meet expectations. And they came to you and said, well, we thought you were really going to exceed expectations. And since you met the expectations that we said for you, and whatever, we're going to withhold that promotion or bonus. Can you honestly say, as an individual, that you would not quit that company?
So
I didn't quit that company, and that was when I was at NBC, and I grew numbers by 400%, and I got a 1.5% raise. And they said, we're lucky we're getting anything at all. And I go, that's not the point. You could have given me more. You don't like me, and therefore then I continued to do that. And then I left that company. Well, the company dissolved. But, I still tried to... I didn't throw the numbers in. I was preparing for the next thing.
But you were checked out. You can't sit here and lie and think you went above and beyond. What you're asking...
I was pissed in that moment.
What you're asking Florida State to do was, after getting fucked, is to go above and beyond to prove who wrong. Who? Who are we fucking proving wrong? Us? The committee? When you are going against Florida State in this specific scenario, all you're doing is you're proving how much of a hypocrite you are, because you're picking and choosing. You're constantly picking your battles and what fits your narrative. You're saying that conference championships, they mean a lot. Do they? Because Florida State didn't get in. You can't compare the motives of Georgia players and Florida State players, because Georgia, even though we all believe, and I truly believe they're one of the best 4 teams in the country, they didn't win their conference championship. They were told. That's fucking important. You lose this, you're out. So they're not sitting there going, man, we got fucked. We lost. Florida State did that, right? We are also sitting here going, the committee got it right. The same committee we made fucking fun of.
Yeah.
Every time except for when it fits your narrative. I mean, get the fuck out of here.
Okay, so
I don't think they'll ever be able to get it totally right in the eyes of everybody.
Right, we're always going to argue about the 65th team, or about the 69th team. We're always going to argue about the 13th team next year.
Yeah.
So do you have one final point? 'Cause
No, I was
wanted
just
going to
say, but I think at the end of the day, these are some of the best playoff games we've had since the playoff has existed. So at the end of the day, it's like, we can bitch and complain or point fingers or whatever you want to call it.
But it lived up to the
but
billing.
We're getting good football.
Okay, so we've talked in nauseum, and we disagree clearly about how these went. Yeah. So, and one thing that Kirby Smart said was like something needs to be done immediately about these bowl games. And yes, next year we will have the benefit of having the 12-team playoff and everything. But I am curious, when you think about the NIL, you think about the transfer portal and all of these things, those are two clear motivators, in addition to the NFL draft, but two clear motivators for a lot of guys in terms of whether or not they play in these games. Do you think that they should have the transfer portal open after the national championship game for that window rather than right there? That then gives these guys the possible incentive of saying, let me have a badass game so that then I can enter the transfer portal and I can have that standout March Madness moment, right, where my stock goes through the roof, and then I can catapult my way through, and then you have an incentive to play in that.
Here's my 2 solutions to increase ratings and interest in bowl games outside of the 12-team format. There will be a 12-team format. What I would do is I would get rid of bowl games that don't fucking matter. I'm talking about the lesser ones that we don't need, right? Get rid of those.
The Gronk Bowl?
Yeah, shit like that. I don't the somewhat important bowls, like the Cotton Bowl and the Sun Bowl and all that. Keep all of that. Move the date of the transfer portal till after.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean you're still going to keep everyone. There's going to be the elite of the elites that's going to want to care about their health to go to the NFL. You'll lose them. But the rest of your potential juniors, sophomores, seniors that are still going to be on the team, they'll play. Like DJU will probably play for Oregon State. So-and-so will probably play, whatever. Move the transfer portal date after. Also, now that there's money going around in college with NIL sponsors, incentivize them to get money for the bowl game, for winning the bowl game.
Yeah, that should be a part of the sponsorship cost. Instead of giving these bullshit Fugazi gift bags.
Swag bags, yeah.
It's like each player gets, $3,000 or whatever.
10 grand, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
depending on the bowl, obviously, you get
you
more
don't
or
have
less.
to go NFL bonus, but a company like Cheez-Its, they can give 10, 20 grand to each winning player.
Yeah.
You'll get good bowl games out of that.
I understand the complication around the transfer portal and terms and semesters and how you need to be enrolled at certain times. But it's like, could you potentially be enrolled at Florida State and be playing with an Oregon State team? I think probably.
They are making these rules up
they're
as
just
they
making
go.
them up. Yeah,
you used to have to sit out when you transfer. Now you can play right away.
Yeah.
They're making these rules up as they go. They can easily change them.
Could you imagine they start doing that, like paying the players, and then they just have the steel briefcases of cash for the winning team afterwards? You can go grab your briefcase. How sick would that be?
Well, it's kind of like what happened with LSU, where I forget which professional athlete was just OBJ just handling dollar bills out to guys on LSU. I mean, what a time to be a Harbaugh. I mean, with John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh just this weekend. Let's move to the NFL here. Ravens crushing the Dolphins, leaving no doubt that they are the most dominant team in the NFL.
I know you're probably doing this for a reason, but I'm going to squeeze this in before you move to the NFL.
Sure.
Because I'm sure that you guys hate UW. You cannot tell me that Odunze and Michael Penix Jr. are not the best tandem
That
in
was
college
crazy.
football.
Yeah.
They played really well.
Do you think that, like...
I am a huge fan of Marvin Harrison Jr. I've always said that since last year. Odunze is the best wide receiver in college football.
So throw this out here as well with like all of like the awards and everything. Do you think that they like should have the Heisman until after all the bowls are done?
No.
And then Penix would clearly, I mean, like we've seen what he's done in a championship game, and now like as a underdog leading his team to a national championship and rising to that occasion every time. You see that, you're like, Michael Penix is the clear Heisman winner there.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think Jaden Daniels is undeserving.
Sure.
I think he won it, and I think if you keep it that way, it's hairy to change the Heisman at this point. Like the way that they've been doing it, they've already set the precedent for it. Jaden Daniels won it with the way that they've been awarding it. And
well, it's basically, if you do it that way, you're only going to get players from playoff teams that are going to win Heisman.
I suppose.
So you're essentially eliminating all the other college teams besides
Alabama
4.
and Georgia are going to be finalists.
Also,
every
you
year.
get a smaller sample size by just doing postseason.
But it opens up with like the 12 team. You know, there's a few more.
I guess that's true.
But compared to still
it's a slippery slope,
compared
I
to
think.
12 games,
it's slipperier. Yeah, there's a lot of slipperiness. But yeah, I mean, like just to see. God, the dimes that Penix was throwing last night, just like on the run with double cover, all this stuff.
He just never seemed rattled. He never seems rattled.
I totally agree.
And the way he throws and he has some throws which is kind of sidearm, but not really sidearm on purpose, and it squeezes between the hands of the defender, and it's like, is he making these throws kind of like, man, that could be a pick six, but it lands every time. It's like, does he fucking know?
I mean, I think
he the one thing I will say about Penix, because I don't like to give him too much compliments, he is like all Madden 100 accuracy level. Like the pinpoint accuracy where he puts it in a place where only his receiver can catch it. The timing is perfect. It's pretty incredible.
I know people who probably have not watched Texas that much, and I said Texas is definitely like one of the best 4 teams, no matter what spot do you think they have in the playoffs or they deserve to get in the playoffs. Texas has the best defensive line in college football with Murphy and Sweat. They could not get through.
And Penix looked like those guys were invisible.
Yeah.
I
don't know how many times he got sacked. Maybe 0. I don't know.
It just didn't feel like there was ever anyone on defense, and he was just like so dialed in on everything that he was. He was like, I'm not worried about you because I feel so prepared for this moment.
I think it's just funny that people always had this stuff to say about Washington, like, oh, and they need to get their running game together. They need to get their defense locked in.
This
and every
championship,
time,
they're gonna need to because they're
every time
hurt.
They prove that they can shut down Texas' running game. They were able to protect Penix. They were able to do this and that. And with them healthy, I know they won a lot of games. Like they barely squeaked by, but still, man, like that team looked fucking great last night.
Well, I tell you what, Big Ten, baby, we're here.
Big Ten.
Oh gosh,
but yeah,
it is one of the more exciting finals matchups, though, as far as like parity and you're not having an SEC team. I am excited about that, but I'm rooting for Michigan.
Do you guys want to talk championship now or after we talk NFL? So we could keep this rolling with that.
I mean, we're already in college.
Yeah, okay, so if we're looking at that 4.5-point favorite for Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. Obviously, you're talking about the run game. Washington had a very untimely injury at the end of the game with their running back. I don't know the status of that injury at this moment, but who knows what's going to happen there. But 4.5-point line. How are we feeling about this, and do we want to throw any money? I lost both games to you this past weekend. I had Texas and I had Alabama, and now I owe you $40 for that.
I think the championship game comes down to one thing. If it's going to come down to Washington being able to stop Michigan's running game. They did it against Texas, but I think Michigan is with a superior running back and a better O-line than Texas. Because Corum is
real deal.
Not probably, but the best running back in college football this year. And the shit he did against Alabama, those little cuts, and, you can go back and forth whether it's the same Alabama defense and they're used to having. Regardless, they were there. And Corum torched them. So if Washington can stop them, I wouldn't necessarily trust McCarthy. I don't think McCarthy is like the QBs of all QBs. I think he is like an A.J. McCarron of a great Michigan team.
A good game manager.
Yeah, I think he's more than a game manager.
A little bit better than a game manager.
But he's no Penix. He's no Bo Nix. He's not the guy you're looking at like, he's going to win this game for you. Because J.J. McCarthy made some mistakes, but it's their running game.
There are several, when you look up and down, like you say Washington, and you have to talk about either a coach or a player or whatever. Michael Penix is the first thing you think of for Washington. But then, like, on the Michigan side, you're thinking of Corum and Harbaugh. And, it takes, like, 3, possibly 4 people to go McCarthy.
It's this Michigan football team strikes me as like the Cowboys. When they're hot, it's because Cowboys O-line is great. The Cowboys defense is great. And when they're having a great game, man, Dak's a fucking MVP. When they're having a great game, J.J. McCarthy is the fucking QB. But when they're not, it's like J.J. McCarthy's not it.
Yeah.
It's the other guys.
Right. I think it's going to be definitely more of an uphill climb for Washington, especially because I think, Michigan's defensive backs are a little bit better than what Texas shown, and obviously
in Oregon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where obviously a lot of Washington's strength comes from, is their passing game. So if they can just get a rush on and keep those guys locked down, I think it's really Michigan's game to win.
Yeah.
And more than anything, I do not want Washington fans to be able to hold over the fact that they are national championships winners over Duck fans for the foreseeable future. So
I wasn't sure about the playoff games. After I watched Alabama, Michigan, and then I was halfway through Washington, Texas, I said to myself, whoever wins Washington versus Texas wins a national championship.
Okay.
Whether it was Texas or... I didn't know Washington could win that. I wasn't sure, because I thought Texas was really good. But I think Washington wins a national championship.
Okay, so are we kind of doubling down on this then? Because I will take Michigan, or, if you want to do a little 20-20 type of a thing as well.
You want to go double or nothing?
Kind of, on the national championship game. Just a straight up.
Straight up, no points?
Straight up, no points.
Straight up downtown.
Well, I'll take the points because I win nothing.
Okay, 4.5. There it is. 4.5 was the line as of Tuesday night. So Michigan 4.5.
It's gonna be. I hope it's a shootout, but they both have really good defenses. I think Penix will have trouble throwing against Michigan secondary, but still be able to do it because Odunze is so good, and he has the Edelman and the Amendolas on his team like Polk and McMillan. But I don't think J.J. McCarthy can throw against Washington linebackers in secondary.
Yeah, I mean, like they're gonna run. They're gonna have to run that
Riggs
ball.
Or whoever that guy is. Yeah, they're gonna have. It's gonna be all Corum, and I think Kalen DeBoer could plan for that. I'd give him that edge.
Yeah, I just think it's like to what Braxton was talking about, if like the DBs can at least make a few more of those bigger plays to like eliminate some of that deep threat stuff that Penix had. Like, I mean, at that point, like you're cutting off your biggest pressure.
And
valve.
on the opposite side, as long as J.J. McCarthy doesn't make mistakes, because he in that Alabama game, he had a few picks. That one, the very first play of the game, like right to that Alabama player who thankfully stepped out of bounds. But you could tell there was some mistakes that he had made, and they had to make up for with the run game and scheme and things like that. So I think if Michigan can not make mistakes on offense, specifically with their quarterback, and be stout on defense when it comes to the passing game and get to Penix a couple times, then, it's their game to lose. But if either of those things falter, then Washington is a pretty stellar team, and I think that they can, score fast and keep on doing it.
The biggest convincing thing for me is the same way that we talked about the NFL. Michigan, outside of the game yesterday, is not as battle-tested as Washington in close games. Like, Washington's been in close games, and they were able to pull it out. Michigan hasn't lost, but they haven't had a lot of close games.
But they've had a ton of adversity this year with their coach. I mean, they are downright. If you were to have a team be like a human version of a sociopath, that is what
Sure, I think if Michigan wins
Michigan
it,
is.
I would also be happy to know that the committee put them through all of this shit and them to still pull it off. That's great.
If Michigan wins, will people view it with all of the controversy surrounding Jim Harbaugh with both recruiting and with the Connor Stallions and the sign stealing and all of that? Is this a legitimate championship, and will it stand as a legitimate championship if they win in, say, 10 years' time? After investigations are done, right? Like we have vacated wins and championships before.
I think the only people that will give them zero credit for that are fucking the same idiots that think football still wouldn't be played. I mean, it's the same way that you're taking away USC shit and Heisman from Reggie Bush. It's like they beat him on the field. Michigan still beat him on the field. The Patriots still won on the field with Deflategate and all that shit. It's like, yeah, I'm not taking that away from them. They won it. It's on record that they won it. You can take that away all you want.
Yeah.
They won the fucking
championship. It's also on
championship.
record about how much they have been cheating. I agree with you, but I think that there's a lot of those people, right? And I know that, we were joking about this earlier, but a bunch of Alabama fans who are just basically saying that they should get a rematch or they should do a best of whatever and all that. But
it'll be a good game, though. I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
Is that this is going to be a good game, I think.
Okay, so we did a little bit ago. We were talking about it's a good time to be a Harbaugh. With John Harbaugh and the Ravens crushing the Dolphins the way that they did, basically sealing a MVP for Lamar Jackson, solidifying a number 1 seed, all of this stuff. Kind of thinking about that team and where they are at. A very impressive weekend for the Harbaughs, but also just the Ravens in general.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens are the team to beat, in my opinion. I think that all the other teams that we've kind of held to that higher standard, maybe outside of the Niners, and even the Niners have shown, points of weakness and not been as dominant as, one may have hoped. I think the Ravens have a pretty complete season of dominance. Especially at the right time, which is, in these last 4 to 6 weeks.
To beat the 49ers the way that they did, to beat the Dolphins the way that they did.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you have, the Eagles, the Chiefs bounce back a little bit, but I mean, just all of these head-scratching things from teams that should otherwise be very much apexing right now.
Yep. So, yeah, I really think that, like I said, this is the Ravens Super Bowl to lose. I think it would be very surprising if they're not at least in it, representing the AFC. But they do have to go through them Browns, which is going to be a tough one.
It is pretty wild to see what Joe Flacco has done. He has more touchdowns this year coming to the Browns midway than, the Jets, the Panthers. There's a good handful of other teams that he himself is responsible for.
And I tell you what, you better not look past them, because that team, you've got to believe the sense of unity and togetherness and hey, we always talk about how do you motivate teams, at a professional level or even the college football level. They have all the motivation in the world. Nobody expects them to do anything. Nobody expected them to get to this point with Joe Flacco, with more injuries than any other team in the NFL. I don't think they have a single starting lineman. They're on third string in like 3 positions out of their 5 linemen. It's incredible that they've gotten to this point. And like I think I said this last week, we've seen teams with stellar offenses like the Joe Flacco Ravens be able to take that, formula and go and win a Super Bowl. And I mean, I don't think it's crazy for them to continue this, this role. They have the momentum, which we know is so important in the NFL, especially going into the playoffs. So, I hope they can beat down on the Bengals this coming week, go into the playoffs on a high, and make something fucking happen. I would love to see them in the fucking Super Bowl.
It rarely happens in the NFL, but to kind of match your point, the thing that Joe Flacco has going for him is I don't think he has any pressure.
Yeah.
He's
house money.
Yeah, he has nothing to lose.
He's playing with nothing to lose, and he looks really fucking relaxed back there. It's like if the Browns lose, they're supposed to lose. But they keep winning, and he keeps playing like no one's rushing him. I mean, he is comfortable in the pocket. He is throwing dimes. Amari Cooper didn't have a 200-plus yard receiving game until he came along.
Yeah.
It's like
now he's setting franchise records.
Yeah, he's the 4th quarterback, and I would be terrified of them, and I would be scared of him. He's not playing for a contract. He's not playing for anything that fucking matters after this. He's just having fun playing football.
He throws for 300 yards in one half, or 296, and then the second half they show him on the bench, and he's basically falling asleep. He's just like, it's so relaxed. He's like, all right, it's past my bedtime. I did my job.
If he throws 5 picks, people are just going to be like, yeah, that was supposed to happen. Really has nothing to lose, and that is... There's nobody more dangerous than a person with nothing to lose.
It's pretty wild to think, too, that, I guess his agent had reached out to the Vikings and been like, hey, Joe's available. Joe Flacco's available. And they're like, nah, we're going to go and get Dobbs, and we all see what happened there. And I don't even remember who they started this weekend for the Vikings.
Jaron Hall.
Yeah, 3rd string or 4th string now.
The BYU kid.
And then it's also funny, too, that the Jets had Joe Flacco under contract last year, too. And, he just... Here he is, just absolutely dominant. And he played well for the Jets last year, too, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think, to your point, Miguel, very much he's playing with house money.
And to go back to the Ravens, I'm not changing my stance on the Ravens. Because the point that I make, it gets proven right every week. It's the same conversation that we had. And I'm not going to discount that you're rolling at this point of the season. That's important. That's like being hot going into March Madness or whatever. But 2 weeks ago, we had this conversation about the Niners. We had this conversation about the Eagles fucking week 12 or whatever. Mm-hmm. It changes, and I get that they're hot, and I will fight anyone over Lamar all day. It's just like he is that player. He deserves all the fucking money. He's the difference maker. There's a reason why he's getting MVP again. At 26 years old, he's going to have 2, the same way that we talk about Mahomes. He deserves it. But they also haven't won a lot in the playoffs. We could talk about
one win.
It's their Super Bowl to lose, but they have not proven a lot in the playoffs. And you're going to face possibly a fucking Josh Allen in the Bills who's also rolling.
Yeah.
A really dangerous team to play. Maybe a Chiefs that get their shit together. The Niners again. Eagles, who knows? But it is not a gimme for them.
It is pretty interesting, I'm not necessarily going to exhaustively go up and down the playoff scenarios because, one, I don't want to sound like such an asshole trying to explain all of the scenarios because I'm invariably going to mess it up. But it's funny to think that the Bills are either you win and you're in the playoffs, or you lose and you need all these other teams to also lose. So you're you have the 4th best odds as the Bills right now to win the Super Bowl. And you don't even know if you're going to be in the playoffs this upcoming week, which is pretty wild. I think that they will, but, there's a lot of things that have to bend right and wrong ways there.
The craziest thing about the Bills isn't necessarily just
But the
like,
Ravens could face them, right? Sorry, I'm hitting my laptop.
the Bills, for them specifically, the craziest thing is not like they lose and they're out or they win and they squeak by. They win and they're like the second seed in the AFC.
Yeah, which would be good for the Ravens because that means it would be the AFC Championship that they would have
they saw him.
before they see him.
Okay, so before we get into kind of a little bit more into the playoffs, we've got a couple of things. Let's talk about the Eagles real quick. Eagles losing to the Cardinals jacks up a bunch of parlays and everything for everyone because they were like minus 1,000 to win. No one wanted the Cardinals to win, including the Cardinals GM, because he's there on the sidelines and he's all bug-eyed like, we can't win this game. This is going to affect our draft stock here. Like, we could not get Marvin Harrison or a quarterback that we want because we're winning this damn game. The Eagles now are just continuing to unravel here. And
this is their second 3-game loss of the season.
It's wild.
It's pretty crazy.
And it's happening like right at the final week of
You
the
keep
year.
waiting for, whether you're an Eagles fan or not, you keep waiting for them to like get it together. Like, you're going to get it together on this 3-game stretch with the Giants, Cardinals, and Giants. You should be 3-0.
Right. Yeah.
Should be no problem. But to drop that game, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I was saying, like, oh yeah, at the end of this stretch, like both the Chiefs and the Eagles are going to win 3 of their next 4, all 4 of their games, and here we are with the Eagles. Just my takes are usually are freezing cold, and me saying like that they are going to win all of these gimme games, and then they lose. They're on their second 3-game losing streak. They were 10-1 to start the year. It's insane.
The Eagles, it's a big question mark because of what's happening at the end. I think the Chiefs have found their wide receiver 1 outside of Kelsey.
And Rice.
I think Rice, he's been a good, like, dependable receiver, but after this last week, having 120, 130 yards,
yeah,
and more than a dependable guy, like a first option outside of Kelsey,
He's
I think
finally emerging as
they
someone
found
who's
someone
somewhat dependable there. Somewhat dependable. With the Eagles, there's reports now, the Philly Inquirer coming out that maybe there's a fractured locker room because A.J. Brown is pissed off about something, and it's like starting to create a wedge within that, right? Like, we talk about, like, if you have a solid locker room, like, regardless of the losses, you're going to persevere, right? I think we've talked about that with the Chiefs before, and like even Travis Kelce on his podcast has talked about, where the state of their locker room is despite their trials and tribulations. But if the reports are led to be true with this A.J. Brown stuff, one, it wouldn't be the first time A.J. Brown has been a pissed off guy in a locker room. We saw what happened with the Titans, but
and I
that
feel like
ruins your chances.
There's been mumblings of this all year, and that's been one of the Eagles' kind of strengths is their team unity. They seem like a team that's together, win or lose. So if this is becoming a bigger and bigger deal, then that's a big concern.
The rumor is, which would kind of give you some hope, but not really, maybe. But it's not A.J. Brown against players. It's coaching staff. Because, technically, if A.J. Brown wasn't getting the ball, you could, as a Philly fan, be like, get him the fucking ball. Like, throw him the ball. He's wide receiver 1, probably top 5 in the league. But he's getting the most touches out of that team.
Right. I mean, he had 6 straight games of over 100 yards earlier this year.
He's getting a lot of receptions, but then the rumor that's swirling around is like there's a problem with Sirianni and the coaching staff. We don't know what it is. I don't know if they'll ever get released, but also, as much as I want you to throw A.J. Brown the ball, you have Devontae Smith. You have fucking Julio Jones, who's old, but he can get you stuff. Like, he can get you 40 yards.
Yeah.
He can get you 4 receptions for 40 yards.
Yeah, you got a serviceable tight end as well, and Goddard.
Use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got great running backs. I mean, they're a complete team, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's necessarily wrong to spread the ball around. That's, to your point about the Ravens. Teams that are more dynamic and have those options tend to do better and have more success because you don't know which direction they're going. Whereas with the Ravens, it's pretty much Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers and whatever running back they have back there. Those are their guys. Maybe OBJ every once in a while. But you look at a team like the Eagles, and it's like, what's the problem here?
Yeah, I know. It's head scratching.
Yeah,
it's very perplexing because you're seeing all of this. You know that it has worked because there's not a lot of turnover from last year.
Yeah,
your core is generally the same, and it was like, wait, and you were 10-1.
Yeah,
and then here we are.
As much as there are problems with the offense, they put up 31 points last week. The problem I'm seeing is their defense. For their defense to give up 35 against Arizona, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Hurts is scoring. People are scoring on offense, but what is happening to Slay and Blankenship and all of these guys? Like, you have the best defensive lineman for a rookie on the team. What is happening to your defense? Against Kyler?
Yeah. He sliced and diced him. It was not a good look.
You know what also wasn't a good look was what happened this past weekend between the Lions and Cowboys. And obviously, like this moment with the alignment and the big man touchdown on the 2-point conversion has been, broken down ad nauseum. And a lot of people have talked about, like, who's to blame here and whether or not, obviously, like, I think more so the officials. I know that Dan Campbell has come out and said, like, we were intentionally trying to make things kind of confusing for everyone, and I think that the official worked too quickly and noticed, like, hey, number 70 had lined up or had reported eligible earlier, so he sees the big guy, comes up to him, and, hey, 70 is going to be eligible again. You can't, the Lions aren't necessarily hearing that, the official, I think it's Brad Allen and his crew is like, oh, 70 is reporting is eligible, but really it was 68. They deprive us of a big man touchdown. I was just like jumping for joy watching that happen, that a big man touchdown happened. But obviously, like, there was a lot of seeding implications on the line in that game as well.
I never want to be, and I pride myself in not blaming the officials, whether it's for or against my team.
Yeah.
Because so many things, so many breaks in the game happen. Bad calls for your team, bad calls against the other team, whatever. They even themselves out. This was fucking blatant. This was in your face blatant, especially after all the shit that came out after. Not only did both 70 and the touchdown scorer 68 walk up to the ref and both reported at the same time, Dan Campbell also talked to the refs pregame,
right,
and said, we have this play in store, and if we do end up using it, I want to give you a heads up.
Yeah, which is pretty standard practice. Like, I was listening to Dean Blandino on the Dan Patrick Show, who was saying, like, every game, 2 officials go to each locker room and they go through complicated plays to make sure that, like, hey, if they're planning on doing this, that the officials know about it, right? Like, on the onside kick, who was it? Was it the Saints that do the onside kick in the Super Bowl or something like that? Like, that's the type of play that you tell officials to be ready for so that they're in position so that they see it correctly, right? So they were not caught off guard.
Why was the ref running away while the 2 linemen were reporting?
I think he was just trying to get to his position.
Yeah.
But I think that
he went too quick.
The biggest sign that I think kind of points fault towards the refs is that crew, Brad Allen's crew, will not be refereeing in the playoffs.
Yeah, they got downgraded.
So I think that is kind of a sign of, hey, man, you fucked up.
But then they put him on the Steelers-Ravens game this weekend. It's a nationally I know that you have to put them on there, but this is a standalone game that you put these guys back on. You have to bury these guys in a game that doesn't matter at that point. Maybe it's predetermined, but my gosh.
Yeah.
But
it's terrible.
I think they're probably hoping the Ravens just shove it to the Steelers, and it's not even...
But Lamar's probably not playing.
True. Huntley's great, though.
I don't think we can complain about the punishments after if you suspend or fine or take them, downgrade them. That's great. But with everything in today's sports, you're talking about, especially with how close the NFL playoff race is right now, and gambling and betting, the Lions not winning that changed a lot of things.
Changed the NFC
You're
East.
talking about the future division winner and how the Cowboys all of a sudden overtook Philadelphia. There was a lot of bets on that.
Yep.
There's a lot of bets on over-under total wins that the Lions could have had.
Yeah. This is the difference between home field advantage or not.
Yeah, like that, dude, to fuck the Lions, and it's so much easier to blame the other team because it's the fucking Cowboys.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think, we are all kind of missing one point where it was Dan Campbell's choice to still continue to go for the two and win the game. That was a risk that he took. Obviously, that play happens. You hate to see it with the refs getting involved like that. But even after that, he still had the chance to just tie the game and win in overtime, and he decided not to.
He decided not to. He has a weekly spot on 97, won the ticket in Detroit, and they danced around that very question to the point where Dan Campbell said, just say what you're thinking. And this was an incredible moment, and I thought it gave a lot of look into his mentality and just kind of, how everything shook out.
So after that play, you had said, you told the offense, you're going for 2 on the final drive if you score. But from the 7, and looking back, was there a point of no return where you laid down your sword and kicked the extra point? Do you regret at all the decision to go for it from the 7?
Yeah, I told our offense, I think I said this before, and we're going for the win. And we're going to go down, we're going to score, and we're going for 2. And I wasn't coming off of that.
So if it was 10 or 15, like a holding penalty, you still would have gone for it?
No, if we're getting outside the 10, no.
Okay, that's why I'm asking.
Outside the 10 every week, good on good. We do it every week. O versus D.
Yeah, when you got the penalty and moved it to
go ahead and say it. Say it. Both of you.
What?
Say it. Say what you want to say.
I think from the 7, it's a low percentage play. I think your chances of winning are lower than if you kick the extra point.
I would like you would say it to anybody else. I'm on the radio. Say it like you want to say it.
Yeah. I thought it was a reckless decision.
Thank you.
Okay, but you don't regret it?
No.
You got to respect him,
because
he's right. That's how we do it all the time. They've always kind of, when they're put in these risky positions, they always go for it. But you've got to think when you get backed up like that you reassess.
Yeah,
you can't just stick to your guns for the sake of sticking to your guns.
Yeah, the 7's a little too far away.
I think we all probably felt the same when the touchdown got called back and they were further back. Just kick it. Just kick it, let's go to overtime. But of all the coaches in the NFL, that is probably the type of guy that doesn't go back on his word.
Yeah.
It's this guy. And it's probably, he might have thought about that decision going, should we just kick it? We're further back. But he's like, the respect in the locker room and all that stuff and going back on your word probably matters more to this guy than any other coaches in the league. So that's probably the reason he didn't.
I think a win gets you more respect.
What was it that
if you didn't get it?
There was a game.
If you miss the kick, you mean, or you don't
or
win?
If you lose
overtime?
You lose in overtime still.
Was it a Seattle game earlier this year where there was a big play and then they got screwed out of it and then it just totally killed the momentum and then they just had no way of winning the game? It's just it's right on the edge of my memory of what actually happened.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But where I'm getting at is that they had the opportunity to they knew they were wronged. They were pissed off in that moment. They could have kind of mentally recovered from that, right? Where I'm saying is kick it, to your guys' point, take a breath, 0-0 game, here we go again. Use it as whatever fodder you need in that moment. But you're still in the height of that there. You have the opportunity, and where I'm going with that, in the previous games, is it's you know that you're wronged or you feel you're wronged, and now the officials mess up something and then you have no way of rebounding from that mentally. They could have in that, but they still chose to go for
I don't know what the odds difference would be, but to argue that same exact point, you would be on that high going for it again. You could have lost all momentum going into overtime.
I guess there's two sides of every
You
coin.
could make a case for either side, and I'd be scared. I'd kick it. I'd probably kick it. But you can say you're also on that. You're also peaking and why not end it now? We're pissed. Why not end it now?
Yeah, I think my mentality would be hey, we're not going to let the refs decide this. We're gonna put hat on hat football. We're going to go into overtime, and we're going to show, without the refs getting involved, that we can win this game. We're the better team. I trust my guys. Let's get it done.
Yeah, I don't know analytics or what made sense or what you feel was right, but the same way, I guess I'm saying is I sort of understand what Dan Campbell did, because the same way that you didn't get the 2-point going for it is the same way that a PAT would have been blocked or shanked, or you lose the first drive in overtime without having a chance. Like, there's a lot of other things that could go wrong had you made the less risky decision, and he might have gotten more shit for that than just going for it again, or maybe it's the same. But again, if it's something that you've practiced over and over as a team, it's probably pretty easy to make that decision on the field going, we can do this.
Yeah, and that's, kind of what I said earlier. You got to give him, some respect for sticking to his guns.
That still sucks, though.
Looking at this weekend's games, we have, obviously, we talked about the playoff implications. Bills and Dolphins as the Sunday night game, probably, the most intriguing one of the weekend. I mean, to see whether or not the Dolphins, who haven't won, I think in probably like 15 or 18 years, won the division, to be able to do that, but then, they are hurt. They could give this away. What are we seeing there? Do you think that the Bills get in because they win, or do you think the Bills get in because they lose?
I hope the Bills get in because they win. I mean, I think the playoffs are better if the Bills are playing in them. I think that they're kind of like we've said about other teams. They're peaking at the right time, and I think that they're a dangerous team, and I think it's going to be fun to see them in the playoffs. So I hope they win, and I hope they get that home playoff. Obviously, watching games in January in Buffalo is a lot more fun than watching games in January in Miami. A little snow action.
Love a good snow game for sure.
I think that game is less about the Bills for me than it is about the Dolphins. Part of me is thinking that, not like they didn't try, but part of me saw the game last week as like the Dolphins was looking ahead to the finish against the Bills and less about the Ravens. The fact that they sat Mostert and they got blown out, it was like, this team's rolling. I'm not saying, again, who the fuck knows. I'm not saying they quit on that game or they didn't try as hard, but it felt to me like they're looking ahead on Sunday.
Well, I mean, you would hope they weren't, because that Ravens game means more than the Bills one. If they win that game, then they win the AFC North. They get back into the number one seed, I believe, contention. They can have week one playoff bye. So I would argue that the Ravens game should have been more important. But if that's the case, that's their own prerogative. But yeah, I think that was kind of a gut punch, and I think it's going to be hard to recover from. And I kind of see the Miami's on a little bit of a downtrend, Buffalo's on an uptrend. So that's kind of why I'm leaning the way that I am. But I think that it'll be a great game. I think it's going to be a shootout for sure.
So teams that have clinched the playoffs so far, obviously the Ravens. Let's go with the AFC first. The Ravens have won their division. They have clinched a number one seed. The Dolphins have clinched a playoff spot, but not their division. Should they lose to the Bills will have won for the fourth year in a row, that division. Then the Dolphins would be a wild card team. The Browns from the AFC North are a wild card team. But then we've got a lot of stuff in the AFC South with Jacksonville, the Colts, and the Texans. Currently, the Texans are kind of outside looking in despite the three identical records. So a lot of things have to break the Texans' way. They have to win. They've got a lot of people that have got to lose. And then you have the Chiefs that have claimed their division as well. And then in the NFC, Cowboys currently leading that division if they beat the Commanders, right? And then the Eagles have the Giants, or is that flipped?
The Giants.
Either way, Dallas wins, they win the division, and then the Eagles will be a wild card team. The Lions have won their division, and the Packers are an outside looking in, but they still have a chance mathematically to make the playoffs. Then the number 1 seed with the 49ers, but the Rams improbably a playoff team this year so far.
I think the coolest story for the playoffs are the Rams and the Packers. I think that's awesome for Stafford, and that's great for Jordan Love to be the first-year starter and then make the playoffs.
Yeah, it would be awesome to see Rams play the Lions.
Yeah.
In the first week of the playoffs.
Jared Goff, Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
If the Bucks play the Saints, and then they get beat 23-13 this past weekend, but they can still win the NFC South. If the Bucks lose and the Saints beat the Falcons next week, it'll be the New Orleans Saints that win the division. As I mentioned, the Houston Texans, they need to win. They need to beat the Colts, and that will secure them a wild card spot. They hold the tiebreakers over the Bengals, Broncos, and Steelers. Let's see. Rams have clinched. Seahawks and Steelers need help. Packers can reach the playoffs with a win over the Bears.
Dude, fucking I know we've spent a lot of time in 4 seasons of this podcast dogging on Baker. Talk about comeback player of the year. That guy deserves to be talked about.
Yeah, definitely.
He's
Doug
incredible.
won't win it. But
This is his best, statistically, this is his best year ever in the league. He has the same numbers as some of the quarterbacks we're talking about. He's 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, most passing yards. Got Mike Evans another 1,000-yard season. Baker's playing out of his fucking mind. They just don't have a great team, and the fact that they have a chance in the playoffs, I know DeMar Hamlin and Joe Flacco, but Baker's up there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy for him. It sucks to know that the Browns had him and had their only playoff seasons and all that kind of stuff, and then we let him go and see him do so well. But can't help but to be happy for him.
The Bucks were plus 800, and I think we even saw it at plus 1,000 preseason to win the NFC South too. So interesting that that they're right up there. And again, when we see the Buccaneers and what we thought they were going to be this year, it was not a NFC champion, or NFC South champion. Very much just let's kind of jockey for position here. Let's start our rebuild process, and here they are, potentially playoff bound.
I mean, this division had the best value for betting in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was
it was a toss-up.
It's possible you even said we should throw money on the Bucks.
I did, because it was they were third. They were plus 800 to win the division. I was that might be the best value, just thinking about Mike Evans and no one else. I'm that might be the best value. But again, it's it comes down to the last week of the season,
and we had the Saints, right? So we're not far off.
Yeah, we had the Saints. If we were,
is that parlay dead?
Oh yeah, very dead, because we had the Bengals winning that division. I can break down what our bet was. I think that it'll let me pull it up. 1 second, please, and then we've got to boogie on out.
You're gonna have to scroll through losses. Because if it's already
well, actually,
up.
it still says, I think, that technically it's open, even because the season's not over or something like that. I think it'll still say it's open.
Mine was dead as soon as one got eliminated.
Oh, I guess it is. Whatever.
Also, can we just bury the whole Justin Fields is not the right quarterback? Because pretty sure that guy's been balling out for 5 games in a row.
Yeah, but I
don't
think he's convinced people yet.
Yeah, I think it's still a little bit up in the air what they're going to do, but I don't think Caleb Williams is any better system quarterback.
I would take Justin Fields.
Let's see if I can get. Let's see. So we had the Chiefs, Lions, Bills, Bengals, Jags, Eagles, Saints, and 49ers. So we
there's two of them at least that will probably get wrong,
and possibly three. Possibly three. Experts. 0 for 12 in our locks of the week. It doesn't matter.
Well, we haven't been placing them, but I think we should do one on the live show.
Okay, sounds good.
I think we do one on the live show.
Back to it. Yeah, I think that we probably make our full week picks the way that we do, so that then we can decide who the punishment is going to go to. I think we just ball out this week and go old school IJMS.
This week. So one of us do a punishment?
Yeah, I think that one of us has to do a punishment.
Whoa.
The punishment was already planned. I explained it earlier.
Yeah, but like I'm throwing it out there. We're just gonna
We'll talk.
not participate
We'll
with
talk.
these people.
We'll talk.
I think that
I'm
one of us.
I'm not eating a Blvd.
Don't spoil it.
Sorry.
You can't just present new shit at the fucking very end.
Jesus Christ, Peter.
Yeah, we'll lay it out. Jimmy's Sports Bar and Grill.
Be there or we're not friends.
January 10th, 6 p.m. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Show, right?
Drink specials, ticket giveaways, a lot of fun planned for you.
You might see Peter's ass.
Yeah, I mean, what is of my butt? Yeah, there's not a lot.
What is of it?
I mean,
what of it?
Just butt crack. Just
right.
a lot of crack is really all that it is. So.
Clear eyes.
Full hearts.
Can't lose.
No, you dummy.